and you already understand the structure of the sub procedure. Along the same lines, we can create a code for function, right? So right now I'm in the same project that we have been looking at, and I have module 1 from the previous video, where I have two other functions as well created. We'll talk about this and we will use it to showcase exactly what to do, but I'll do a manual exercise to give you an understanding how to write it, right? So function, which is the keyword, okay, which tells you in VBA we cannot use a keyword to name a function or sub procedure. That's why it's showing it as a red. So what we can do is I can rename it to something like W, right? Now if we end this with double parentheses and then we press enter, and you would see end function automatically appears, right? So this is your basic structure. Now what you have to understand is what you have to remember is, for a function there are two things which are very important. One is the input and the other one is the output, right? So for the doubly function, the ask is that it will take one number, right, which could be either an integer or double as in floating point. So what I'll do is I, okay, which is a variable, as double. Okay, let me press OK. I'll come back here, right? So what it is telling me, when I start with the custom function in Excel, which is named as doubly, I will expect that it will have an input I, which is of double type. So I is as double type, right? And then right after parentheses I can say as double, right? Which means the output of this function will be double as well, right? Now what I can say is doubly, which is the name of the function, equals to what will be the value of this function, right? The output of the function, it will be 2 multiplied by I. So let's test this code. So I'll just put it here. Let me resize this window, okay, and let's test all these test cases. So I go with, so I start with equals to sign and then start typing in doubly, okay. Another thing that you would notice, when you start writing a function, it will give you suggestions, right? So for user defined function, it will give you user defined function list, right? Another way you can identify this is as, for any function that you already get within Excel, it will be in capital. Any user defined function will be of small letters, right? So doubly, and then I do the same thing, okay. So I take B6, right, I get the desired output, and so on, right? So so all the test cases that I prepared, that was expected, right? I got the expected output and then actual output as well, which is matching, right? So this was a very simple function to identify or to showcase exactly how do we write the function user defined function code in VBA. Okay, so now what you see on the screen is 3 functions in total, one which I just covered manually, and the other ones are pre-defined, which are a little more complex than the first one, of course, just to showcase that there are a lot of things that we can do within VBA, right? So this one is calculate percentage. It takes part, which is your numerator, as double, and whole, which is your denominator, as double, and then the output is also as double. If the whole, which is your denominator, is 0, it will give you 0 as the result, right? Why? Because obviously denominator cannot be 0, it will give you division by 0 error, right? Otherwise it will simply give you the ratio multiplied by 100, which gives you the actual percentage, right? So 50 divided by 100 is 0.5, and then multiplied by 100 is 50, which is 50%, right? Because we are calculating percentage. Word count. So if you want to count the number of words, let's see the code. Okay, so target cell, and then word to find. So that means what is the word that I need to find. It will take that as an input, and where I'm looking for that word, that is your target cell, and the output of this will be an integer, right? So it will take a string, it will find it in a range, and then dim is called dimension, which is a way of defining a variable within the code. So dim words as string, right? Dim I as integer, count as integer, and so on, right? Words split the target cell values using space, right? And within this, so let me explain this one again. So words will be your values within the target cell. Okay, all the words within the target cell separated by word, sorry, space. So for example, I am Rahul, right? These are three words, right, separated by space. So this target cell value will be separated by space or split by space, and it will give you a list of words, right? And that's why you see this parentheses in the words, because it is a collection of words, right? Now within each of these words we will see if it is equivalent to your word to find, right? If it is word to find, it will basically increase the counter, which is your how many words are there which is matching to word to find, and then at the end it will assign this value of count to the word count function, and that's it. Okay, let's cover some basics now, about sub procedure. So what is sub procedure again? Sub procedure is a macro, and it performs various tasks within VBA or within Office or within Excel application, right? It depends on your use case, but any automation that you would do generally would be performed by a sub procedure or a macro, right? What I have here is four sets of sub procedures or macros, and all of these perform two categories of tasks. One is conditionals, so if and else. The other one is loops. So we are going to understand a bit about how the conditional code works in VBA, as well as how the code works for a loop, right? So I have written this code already, so that I can spend more on explaining the code rather than writing the code. Okay, so on the uh, on the left hand side I have the values. Okay, I hope this would be visible. So in the sheet 7 I have in column a total of 9 values, and total of 9 values in column B, and 1 value in column C, right? We will see how these code values or these code snippets will perform their each task. Okay, so let's go through the syntax and a few things within the first one. Okay, so this is a macro called check pass fail. So it is checking whether someone whether based on a given number or marks, someone is pass or fail, right? So the macro starts with sub, the name of the macro, and then blank or empty parentheses, and the end of the macro ends with end sub, right? So dim is a short for dimension. It uh, it helps to initiate a variable and variable type, right? So we are initiating marks as an integer, or we are initializing it as an integer using dim keyword, as well as integer keyword. In the second line of the code, what we are saying is range a2. Okay, and let's say, and let's revisit the fundamentals. We have not defined a workbook or a worksheet here, right? So range a2 will work for any selected sheet. So if you are in sheet 1 or 2 or 3, it will take range a2 uh, and its value and assign it to marks, right? So variable equals to value is the syntax to assign a value to a variable. Now, if condition and or the if statement checks whether this mark is above 35. If it is, then range b2, which is this, will become either pass or fail. So let me just delete this number for now. Okay, so if marks greater than equals to 35, then range b2 dot value will become pass, else range b2 dot value become fail, and then we are ending the if statement. Okay, let me run this code and let me put all of these values here for now. Okay, so let's look at a2. A2 is 77, so b2 should say pass when I run this code. So when I click on this, it becomes pass. The value changed to 58 because I have used random formula here. Let me copy and paste it as values. Okay, now let me change this to 30 just to check the test case, and if I rerun, it will rewrite b2 as fail. Okay, so the code works. So let's check 35 value, which is the boundary case, and when I click on it, when I run the sub procedure, it will pass. Okay, another note, if you have multiple macros within the same module, you have to click anywhere within the code to run that specific piece of code, right? So if I select this, I can run this. If I select this piece of code will run. Okay, now the second one is checking whether the value in C2 is greater than 10,000. Okay, if it is, then it will change the color to green. If it is greater than 5,000 but less than 10,000, it will be yellow, and anything which is less than 5,000, it will become red. So it follows the exact same syntax. The only thing is the function that we are going to perform based on the values will change, right? So let me run this code, and I have the value in C2 as 10,001, so it should be green, right? Let me make it 6,000, and it should be yellow. And if I make it, let's say 2,000, if I rerun it, it will become red, right? So every case is working. Okay, now I have count fails. What this piece of code does is it will check in the given range how many are less than 35. Okay, and it will count all these cases and give us the count of fails. That means how many students out of total 9 have failed, right? So I click here. Okay, and this is let me go through the code once. So count fails requires range, cell, and fail count as the variables. Now what it is doing is it is taking RNG variable, which is taking in a range from A2 to A10, and it is initializing the counter of failed students with 0. Now for each cell in range, which is A2 to A10, if cell value is less than 35, then it will increase the counter by 1, otherwise nothing, and then we proceed to the next cell, so on and so forth until we reach A10. Okay, and at the end it will give us a message box which will tell us number of failed students and the count. Okay, so let me run this. Okay, and you would see number of failed student is 2, and if you go to the code here, anything which is less than 35 is 1 and 33, so 2 instances. So let's go through this code line by line. Dim I as integer, it defines I as integer. Then we are using for loop which has a counter value I which starts from 2 and then ends with 10. Okay, so if cells I1, so we are starting with 2 right now and we will move to 3, 4 and so on till 10. So right now the value of I is 2, right? So I equals to 2, right? Just to showcase where we are at in terms of value I, right? So 2 1 means second row first column, which is this value A2. Okay, if it is greater than 50, what it will do is it will take the same value, increase it by 50 and assign to this cell. Okay, what is this cell? It is I as in 2, so 2 comma 2, which will be row 2 and column 2, which is B2 cell, right? So if the value is greater than 50, greater than equals to 50, it will increase that value by 50 and paste that value in the next column. If it is not, then it will basically not do anything, right? Apart from assigning the exact same value in column B, and that's it, right? It is ending the if statement and then it is going to the next I, which is going to be 3, 4 and so on, right? So if I select this piece of code and run it, you would see that the values in column B are there, and you would notice that anything which is greater than 50, for example 85, has been increased by 50 here, 72 to 122 and so on, and for the values which are less than 50 are exactly same in the column B. So with this, what I have tried to do is explain what is condition or if else statement in VBA, as well as some use cases of a for loop, right? Remember, I have not gone through these codes as I would have done in any academic or institute or your college, right? I have not taken the same approach because this is just at an introduction level, right? For me it is important to showcase what all things can be done within VBA, not to cover VBA as a subject, right? our Again, our focus always will be Excel in this course. All right, now another thing that you would notice is this message box when we received a pop-up when we ran this query, right? So if I run this again, you would see this pop-up, right? So this message box is a great place for debugging, right? So if you have any values that you want to showcase and you want to see that what is the value of a certain variable at a given point in time when you're running the code, message boxes can be handy, right? So it will give you the current behavior of any variable, or it will give you a message at the end or in the middle or at the start of the macro, that whether we are ending the macro or whether we are starting the macro, or whether we are good to go with the variable values and so on,